In the meanwhile, I'll share the agenda for today. And I think the number 11 might be here. I think he mentioned in the past that it's difficult for him to join in. Is Christian already here by any chance?
Okay.
And it's working. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So, okay. I didn't expect I'm going to be the first one, but yeah, let me just start with my proposal. So basically, I call it updating training info proto format for more comprehensive training information. So just, I like to let you know that today's my proposal is still at a very high level. So I like to just start with start with sharing the current challenges. And also I like to just clarify, I'm part of Microsoft, but I'm a AI solution architect. So I'm not representing any particular like a product or product team, technology team in Microsoft. So just I like to definitely share my kind of challenges with my customers or working on ML models. So currently, ML ONNX models are widely used for inference acceleration. That's kind of has been quite a bit of focus of ONNX Foundation in the past few years, as far as I know. And then definitely, many people I know, they basically converting trained PyTorch, TensorFlow, JAX model to ONNX when they need acceleration for inference. But the challenges right now is that more people start using kind of advanced framework like Hugging Face or like more kind of transformer, like a large language model frameworks, and also newer distributed training framework. And then those kind of new frameworks generate lots of additional information, such as like a training configuration or data, information, or the variety of states, tokenizer, metadata, etc. And right now, just our challenge is that there's no clear way to include those additional data, information associated with original checkpoint in ONNX. So this is kind of the challenge I'm trying to figure out. And then obviously the future desired state, what I like to accomplish, which seems a little bit unrealistic, like by looking at the current state of ONNX. But obviously, like when ONNX first, announced, one of the goal was the model portability. So, so obviously not just for inference, I like to, make some changes in ONNX format so that, all the checkpoint information can be stored inside the ONNX model, so that we can basically we can put everything, all the training upstream information inside the ONNX model for basically for inferencing. Even inferencing actually very often need some additional information like tokenized information and some metadata for some framework and models. And also, this is kind of a little ambitious, but I'm also looking for fine-tuning of, coming from ONNX model. So right now, there's no path, very challenging. It's almost impossible to basically do fine-tune ONNX models. So basically, this is basically the motivation. So, and then just, I don't have time to go into too much detail, but just at the high level. For example, Hugging Face, transformer library is getting very popular. And Hugging, in addition to Hugging Face, Hub model Hub, and then if you look at the model or artifacts in Hugging Face, not just those PyTorch, TensorFlow, JAX models, it basically generates lots of, files for configuration, training args, trainer states, tokenizers. And basically, this is kind of a good example, basically, on how we could put those additional information in ONNX. And this is kind of, I've looked into how to do it, but my kind of the reason I propose this is that it's almost impossible to do this with the current ONNX file format. So I've looked at model proto or like ONNX model format, and there's a field called the training info, and then the data structure is called the training info proto format, and then it has only 4 fields: initialization or algorithm initialization binding, update bindings. And this field it describes a graph to compute the initial tensor upon creating the training processes, and then kind of also using the graph proto or data structure. So this is the existing list field of graph proto format. And then definitely just, I couldn't figure out how to basically, use existing field to store, for example, additional information from Hugging Face checkpoints and other newer frameworks, also distributed framework like a deep speed. So definitely the challenges with the current, current training info proto is that, this field was created back in 2019, before many people start using framework like Hugging Face or distributed deep learning training framework. So, and I looked around, like different implementation or how this field is basically used in ONNX conversion export utilities, but I didn't find any tools using this field at this point. Just in case if any of you are aware of this, I like to definitely, I'm very interested in seeing that. And also this field was obviously designed before transformer or frameworks and the distributed frameworks starting getting used by many people. So definitely this is a challenge. And then just at the high level, like I like to just share kind of my idea. Definitely the existing field, just from my perspective, it's very difficult to, or almost impossible to use it for the newer framework and checkpoint model format. So just I'm looking to exploring some idea to how to kind of design new training info proto format. And then kind of one idea is that just to, define this newer specification in more like hierarchical, kind of object-oriented kind of way, so that just the base, specification could have a very minimum fields, and then could have next level basically with next level specification basically inheriting the base structure with a little bit more kind of specific fields. And then the reason I separated like graph tensor framework versus distributed framework is that very often users tend to use frameworks like the PyTorch with some distributed framework like Deep Speed or like FSDP or some other newer framework, for example, Ray. So obviously, in the current environment, it obviously we definitely need some kind of flexibility to kind of adapt multiple specification to store training information. So this is kind of complexity when it comes to implement this. So definitely just the goal of my kind of proposal is not to present like a specific kind of implementation. I definitely like to just get your feedback if this is the kind of right direction, or like if there's a way to do this with the current training info proto format. I definitely like to know. And then just for the next step, I'm basically looking to investigate deeper into some of the frameworks, things like Hugging Face, Transformers, Accelerate, in addition to TensorFlow, Python, JAX, and also NVIDIA has a newer framework called NeMo. And then we're getting more distributed training framework these days. So this is kind of my next step. But I just like to, I'm not the expert of ONNX, and I don't know the history of ONNX specifications. So, I like to get your feedback for this.
All right, thank you very much. That's a great presentation. Anybody has a question for Taco?
Yeah, actually, definitely, I like to get kind of more brainstorming, and definitely, like I could do it inside Microsoft, but definitely ONNX is, a community beyond the single company. So definitely, I really like to initiate some kind of brainstorming or discussion on how we could, update ONNX file format for these newer requirements.
Okay, so personally, I can tell you that IBM, it is a really this topic here is very timely. There's really a lot of interest in fine tuning, and I personally haven't dwelt with this, so I don't have the expertise, but I know that it's really a topic of great interest. So I think it's very timely. I have a question. So I think on slide 10 you show that you're already looking at these other frameworks, which I think is wonderful, because ONNX is kind of a common framework of exchange. So it's really nice if it plays well with all the framework that generate ONNX. And also potentially it also ONNX can be then used by different other frameworks. So I think that research is really good. I have a question for you. Do you think that we can have information that is self-contained to ONNX, meaning that we can really add all this information as an ONNX only kind of data framework? Or do you think it would have to be, for example, a data field explicit for either a distributed training framework or for an input format or input framework?
Yeah, that's definitely what I need to study more. But obviously, it's very challenging to really define absolute kind of field, because even just Hugging Face, it really depends on the model when it comes to the field. So that's why basically new, specification need to have some kind of level of flexibilities. And I don't feel like just ONNX, group community, ourselves can maintain all the specifications. So that's why I kind of looking at, as a kind of somewhat flexible specification. So as ONNX, group, we can define some kind of like a base specification, but vendors get the flexibility to define and they keep updating as a new version of framework comes, gets released. So just all the details I'm still trying to figure out.
What benefit would, by the way, this is Saurabh from Intel. What benefit are you like? I'm not fully landing the benefit.
Yeah, so benefit is that right now, just basically the current challenge is that, ONNX is only storing, with those, basic tensor graph model from Python, TensorFlow, JAX. So many people have to end up, managing both original checkpoint and ONNX point, ONNX model, right? And even for inference, very often need kind of, things like a tokenizer, information, but that's not part of the ONNX. So model management is very awkward is one thing. And also right now, basically, or fine tuning, basically, like, there's no way to use ONNX for fine tuning or additional fine tuning purposes. So basically by storing additional information into ONNX, obviously I like to basically start kind of, or exploring the path for fine tuning coming from ONNX. This work is very complicated, obviously way beyond this kind of proposal. But basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think fine tuning, I fully agree. I think that's definitely quite a challenge. We have to retrain sometimes. We have to do a whole lot of those things. So it makes total sense. When you said about checkpoints,
right?
Is there an element of there is something called quantization aware training, and maybe that is also a use case for those kind of things where we have different flavors of the model.
Yeah, so definitely checkpoint. I think the definition of checkpoint has kind of somewhat changed after newer framework like Hugging Face transformers or LLM framework start getting used. So obviously, if you just only live with those or more fundamental framework like PyTorch, TensorFlow, JAX, I think current approach might work. But I think definitely, yeah, newer framework generate way more information associated with models. So that's why I haven't looked into all the framework, what kind of a model format. I'm fairly familiar with Hugging Face transformers and the Microsoft DeepSpeed. I use this kind of combination very often. But I definitely need to look into more like other framework to generalize our approach. So definitely I don't know if Intel has kind of a, framework, newer framework for transformer models, but definitely if you're interested, definitely I kind of need your help and feedback.
So
yeah, I think go ahead, please.
Well, one comment is I guess the challenge is sort of separating out common data that's used by multiple frameworks, but maybe in different formats, their own formats. Any such information, I think there may be value in identifying a common format, say within ONNX, to represent such information. On the other hand, if we have information that's very specific to one framework, ONNX already has this way to attach extra metadata in a very generic form, like a string-to-string mapper. And maybe that might be a reasonable mechanism to use for adding extra information that's very specific to a particular framework.
Right. So obviously, yeah, this is the thing. Obviously, I was also wondering, I'm very curious if there's a way to do this, just outside the ONNX. Basically, just all we need to do is to basically, attach kind of extra metadata or information with some flexibility to ONNX model. So definitely, if there's another approach, just beyond the ONNX specification, I like to know. I'm very curious.
Taka, have you used ORT training? That one can fine tune ONNX models.
Oh, yeah, but just ORT training, I'm not super familiar with. But based upon what I looked at, it's still very often based upon, for example, using things like transformer framework, or for example, existing examples from Microsoft. It uses Hugging Face transformer model, so it's not pure ORT training format. So definitely ORT training is one of the kind of frameworks I did like trying to investigate.
which you think, Sig, would be most appropriate to continue the discussion on this one?
I guess maybe the architecture infra. I mean, there was at some point, I don't know whether you call it a working group or which was started on training, which I think did the work which produced this existing training info proto. But I guess that's
okay. That's
I came to a
That's
stop.
a good suggestion. Yeah, I'll see if it's respond. Otherwise, it sounds like indeed an architecture infra. All right. Well, thank you very much. So much appreciated. So it's just, I guess, the beginning of a discussion, and it will go on. But thank you for your good points. All right. So I'm not sure I've seen the other folks. So how about Alexander? Do you want to present now? Your web AI GPU support for JavaScript?
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure, 1 second.
And you should be able to present.
Yeah. Can you
see your screen? Yes, we can.
Yep. Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm very this is my very first time on this meeting, so I did my best to present my proposal, but yeah. So a little bit about me. So I'm not part of Microsoft or Intel or IBM. So I work in a small startup, and last year I got very interested in running neural networks in browser. So I started a project on that. So basically what I wanted to do, I wanted to make it easy for people to run neural networks in browser, because from my experience while working on it, it involves quite a lot of steps, and I wanted to simplify it. Yeah. So this is where I am coming from. And recently, as probably many of you know, there is a growing interest in on-device AI and running all kinds of models on device. So, for example, these some very cool projects like Llama CPP and Whisper CPP, when people hack their way to run very large models using all sorts of quantization and other hacks on MacBooks. Just last month, people used TVM Unity for running Stable Diffusion completely in the browser. 1 second. Yes. And also there is Web GPU backend for ONNX runtime for web. People are working on it. And also there is more or less classical ONNX based project. For example, a project of mine. So what the main purpose of my project is simplify running deep learning models in browser, all kinds of them. And as you can see, here, I try to make it as easy as possible, 2 lines of code to create model and run it and get the result and continue working on the rest of the web application. So yeah. And current state is quite good. So it works very well with multi-threaded runtime on CPU. So I'm able to utilize multiple threads and to get quite good speed up in processing, up to maybe 3 times on 4 threads, which is very good. And I was able to implement image, text, and multimodal models from Hugging Face Hub. And also tokenizers for text models are also implemented and working very well in browser. But the main thing is that some even larger models they are still rather slow. And I saw a couple of experiments of people running large models, like truly large models, using web GPU on ONNX, and it runs like much faster. And essentially my proposal or ask, I don't know how to frame it better. To get better GPU support for ONNX runtime for web, I saw, basically after I submitted this proposal, I saw an issue in ONNX runtime GitHub that in April, web GPU support will come as an experimental feature. And I just want to like propose some instructions or tutorials on how community can be better involved in implementing these features. Because, for example, I personally would like to do my best to contribute to extending operator support for web GPU, because I am personally interested in running models using web GPU in ONNX and in my library. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the proposal. Yeah, I think there's a team at Microsoft that works on ONNX runtime for the web, and you're right, they're working on different backends. There's web GPU, and there's also WebNN, which is a new standard that's coming out. Yeah, I'm happy to connect you to the folks who are working on that, so that you can, it's great if you're able to contribute operators for web GPU. So definitely can make the connection there. It's all done on the GitHub, but sometimes it's useful to talk to the folks.
Yeah, I would greatly appreciate it if you could connect me to them. Thank you.
And Alex, this is Saurabh from Intel. Expanding on the what Prashant was saying about WebNN. WebNN is a W3C standard, and I put in some links in the chat window that can give you some more visibility into what is going on there. And if you need any help connecting with the W3C standard owner on WebNN, I can help you with that too.
Oh, great. And could you please also share like your contacts so I could follow up on that after the meeting, because I'm definitely interested in like talking to people about this.
Yeah, I'm going to put his email address in the chat window for you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and Alex, in general, so you can also go on our Slack channels, which allow you to communicate with other folks that are involved in this community. I have a question. Do you think you have also a proposal for the ONNX standard itself, or is it more like an implementation that is tied to ORT?
I think it is more related to ORT, because
that's fair.
Yeah, it is like, it has, like from my point of view, it has nothing to do with the format itself. It is more of a runtime feature.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, in the meanwhile, any further questions for Alex? Okay, so in the meanwhile, I discovered that Buran from IBM is actually away for the week. So absolutely miscommunication here. So he won't be here. And if any sign from Christian, I saw Raman that you sent an additional email. Did you get an answer by any chance?
No, I haven't received anything yet.
All right. Then I guess that will be it for today. And we'll see if we can reschedule some of those presentations for tomorrow, for next week. Any parting thoughts, comments?
It was very interesting to see. It was very interesting to see today's proposal. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to all the presenters. Your effort is much appreciated, and hopefully lead to good discussions and good improvement for the ONNX standard, as well as the tools that implement ONNX. Okay, thank you so much. We'll see you next week then.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.